You know, when we think about history's greatest civilizations, we often picture these colossal ruins and imagine they just suddenly vanished. But from huge temples carved straight out of bedrock to incredibly advanced urban metropolises, they didn't just disappear, they transformed. Welcome to The Explainer. Today we are diving deep into the enduring legacy of ancient Indian and Hindu civilizations and looking at how their ghosts are quite literally still echoing in our modern lives.
Pop culture absolutely loves a dramatic apocalypse, right? It makes for a great movie, but it really begs the question, how does an empire of gods just vanish? Do they actually crumble overnight? Or does the truth, the one still hidden beneath the earth, tell a completely different story? We're constantly fed these myths of catastrophic collapses, of magnificent cities swallowed whole by the earth or the sea. But honestly, the archaeological reality is way less theatrical and frankly a lot more fascinating. It's a story of gradual adaptation. These incredible empires didn't just vanish into thin air. They evolved, and they left behind a massive foundation of knowledge that we are still relying on today.
So here's our roadmap for today's explainer. The Indus Valley Mystery, Dwarka the Sunken Port, the Kushans and the Golden Age, the Cholas, Masters of the Sea, and finally, Angkor's hidden urban empire.
Let's jump right in with part 1, the Indus Valley Mystery.
Okay, we're going back over 4,000 years, and the sophistication of these people is just mind-boggling. I mean, while a massive chunk of the world was literally still living in mud huts, the people of Harappa and Mohenjo-daro were designing precise right-angle streets. They actually had private bathrooms with covered wastewater sewers. That is honestly better plumbing than you'll find in some modern apartments. Throw in identical, standardized weights used across hundreds of kilometers of territory and massive rock-cut reservoirs for catching rain at Dolavira, and you've got a society that clearly built for its people, not just for its kings.
So here's the kicker. There was no overnight collapse. None. This whole transition was entirely driven by shifting climate. Over decades, the monsoons began to weaken. Then came centuries of prolonged drought where rivers literally dried up or changed their course. But instead of just dying out, we see this quiet, incredible migration. People simply packed up their knowledge, their standardized bricks, and their farming practices and seamlessly merged into the era we now call the Vedic period.
Moving right along to our next mystery, part 2, Dwarka, the Sunken Port.
For centuries, ancient epics have described Dwarka as this magnificent golden city that was swallowed by the ocean in a single, catastrophic night. But modern sonar and deep-sea divers have actually gone down there, and they've uncovered a completely different reality. The layers of ancient foundations prove that the sea level rose gradually over hundreds of years. So the people didn't drown in some dramatic flood, they just retreated and rebuilt further inland as the coastline shifted.
And it turns out, Dwarka wasn't just some isolated local harbor. It was a bustling hub of global connection. Divers found hundreds of massive stone anchors down there, and they perfectly match late Indus Valley designs. These people understood the monsoon winds so well that their trade routes stretched all the way across the Indian Ocean to Mesopotamia. It just goes to show you, reality is often way more astonishing than the legend.
Now let's fast forward a bit and see where all these diverse worlds perfectly collided in part 3, the Kushans and the Golden Age.
Picture this, you're holding a single gold coin. But this one coin unites 3 entirely different corners of the ancient world. On one side, you have the portrait of a Kushan ruler. On the flip side, you might find Iranian gods like Mithra, or ancient Greek deities, or the Hindu god Shiva, all while these exact same rulers were actively pouring money into Buddhism. The Kushan Empire acted like an invisible bridge right on the Silk Road, a place where all these different faiths and merchants just thrived side by side. 1600, that astonishing number is the age in years of the Iron Pillar of Delhi. Forged during the ensuing Gupta era, this massive 7-meter-tall pillar has just stood out there, completely exposed to the elements, defying time and rust for 16 centuries. How is that even possible? Well, it's protected by a masterful, naturally forming phosphate layer. It's not magic, it's an incredibly advanced understanding of metallurgical craftsmanship.
But the Gupta period wasn't just a golden age of metal, it was an absolute explosion of thought. Ancient scholars like Aryabhata were essentially building enduring monuments out of pure mathematics. This guy approximated pi, he advanced trigonometry, and he even theorized that the Earth itself rotates on its axis. He realized this centuries before it became the bedrock of modern science.
Let's shift our focus down south for Part 4, the Cholas, Masters of the Sea.
The Cholas totally flipped the script. They realized the true power didn't just come from marching massive armies across the dirt, it meant mastering the ocean. Back home, they were fitting dozens of tons of granite together with pinpoint precision to build the towering Brihadeeswara temple, and setting up highly sophisticated, self-governing village councils. But offshore, they essentially turned the ocean into a massive administrative highway, running trade and naval fleets all the way to Southeast Asia and Africa.
And their artistic legacy is just as stunning, especially their bronze sculptures like the famous cosmic dance of Shiva. To make these, they use the brilliant lost wax technique. Basically, first you shape a highly intricate wax model. Next, you encase it tightly in a mold. Then, you melt the wax completely away, which leaves a perfect negative space. Finally, you pour in the molten bronze. Modern neutron analysis actually shows that as this metal cooled, it formed incredibly durable crystalline structures. They were literally mastering chemistry just for the sake of art.
Finally, our journey takes us deep into the Cambodian jungle for Part 5, Angkor's Hidden Urban Empire.
900,000. Think about that number for a second. For centuries, the dense Cambodian jungle swallowed this Khmer Empire metropolis. But recently, LiDAR technology pierced right through that canopy to reveal a sprawling hydraulic city that supported up to an unfathomable 900,000 people. This wasn't just a collection of temples. It was one of the largest pre-modern cities on Earth, kept alive by a genius, massive system of canals and water reservoirs.
So how does a city of nearly 1 million people just fall apart? Again, forget the myth of a sudden, bloody collapse or the invasion of 1431. The real culprit here was the climate. Severe shifts and weakened monsoons meant their highly engineered canal network slowly choked on sediment. The infrastructure just couldn't hold up, which led to a quiet, gradual migration away from the city over several generations.
So, what is the big takeaway from all of this? Well, if there's one thing you remember from today, let it be this. These ancient worlds never truly disappeared. The Harappans, the Kushans, the Guptas, the Cholas, the Khmer, their foundational knowledge simply transformed. It blended together, it migrated, and it literally still lives on today in the math we use, the architectural foundations of our buildings, and the trade routes that connect our globe.
It really makes you wonder, doesn't it? We've seen how these empires adapted to the climate, merged their cultures, and built invisible bridges across time. So if their ancient foundations are still actively shaping our world right now, what in the world will explorers uncover about our modern cities in another 4,000 years? Keep questioning the history beneath your feet.